Let's face it, it has been proven that startups without technical co-founder have less chance to succeed than others. That's why in this video we are going to see what early stage CTO actually does or should do and how to supplement that role. When building a startup with or without a CTO, your success depends on two things. First, can you figure out what to do? And secondly, can you get it done? Obviously, you can hire someone to get some things done, but it's much harder to figure out what to do next, right? And therefore, who you need to work with. And when it comes to build a tech startup, the CTO is the one to count on. So no matter if someday we work together or not, the role of the CTO in an early stage startup will always be the same. On an early stage startup, a CTO should act as a product manager, technical expert, being an IT manager, and an innovator. Let me develop a bit each of those roles and see how, without a CTO, you can make up for them. First, let's get started with the product manager role. For this role, he is responsible of prioritizing features, compiling development costs, building the roadmap, managing the product development, and to present future versions of your application. Everything to avoid jumping headfirst, investing thousands developing useless algorithm or features. And when it comes to fundraise, that's also the most important role to present what you've planned. You know, these days, you are unlikely to fundraise just with concept slides. You have to show that you know exactly how to build what you've planned, from the resources, the technologies, and the required skills. Unfortunately, most of founders come short when technical questions arise. Indeed, showing providers quotations are not enough anymore. Investors make decisions based on potential return on investments, and they want a clear roadmap. So a roadmap is where you will not only show versions of your application, but also features and how at each stage, listen to this one, how on each stage you can have a sustainable business model. That's very important. And that's also why they expect a clear presentation of the product, how it works, how is it really innovating, and again, how you are going to actually build it. And they also expect compiled and detailed cost, version per version, and how much you need of each resources. To have that detailed cost at My CTO Friend, we've created an Excel template to help you with that, so that it become easy to put all the costs of each features to prioritize, generate the compiled costs and the optimized version of the cost of your next version. And you don't need any technical skills to do that. You just need a bit of help to evaluate some features and you are ready to go. And that's my point. You can learn to become a good product manager with the right tools and the right coaching, I would say. Indirectly, that's what we do at My CTO Friend. We teach to non-technical founders to become tech leader, to be able to lead their project independently. And that's how you can raise funds and you can know exactly how to build that product with the right type of the customers and the right type of technologies. Talking about technologies, by the way, that's lead me to the next and the second role of the CTO, the technical expert. So, do you know that it exists altogether something like dozens of languages, thousands of frameworks. Frameworks are kind of sub-languages. On one language, we can use several methodologies. So frameworks are kind of methodologies. There are millions of API services that we can use for our application on internet, and existing softwares that you can reuse. Millions. So any good developer is always, and unfortunately always, specialized in one or two languages. He is not aware of what exists. And with experience, they will be able to build softwares faster and faster but within the limited languages they are experts in. Okay? So often they're probably going to start coding something right away just to impress you with what they know, the skill they have. And that leads me to share a secret with you, something that is not very easy to know. Is that developers have no idea if they are good or not. Think about it this way. If a developer wants to build something, anything, he just codes it. If he don't know to do something, what is he going to do? He's going to Google it, follow a tutorial, and usually it works. If he follows the tutorial, it works. In other words, a developer cannot fail. Some have huge ego, thinking their massive talent is a missing puzzle piece of thousands of startups. So, if even the developer himself don't know what's the best solution for you, how you, without technical background, can you really figure it out? Which language, which framework, which API services is the best for you to go faster and to build your product? And how can you recognize which type of developer would be the best, would be the most effective to build your product? And finally, how can you evaluate the level of a developer if you know nothing about tech? I myself don't have the skills to evaluate everyone and to audit every single languages or frameworks in the world. As a CTO and former expert in the cloud, I'm going to share with you my technique. I know how to read code and write code. But when it becomes too specific, like for artificial intelligence, as example, or virtual reality, or game creation, I just rely on experts. And I pay them for their advice. And it's really, really convenient. Because in just few minutes, they can answer things that would take me years to learn myself, even with a tech background. And I want you to learn to do exactly the same. And if possible, do not rely on development provider, because the development providers are automatically biased. Remember, their goal is to sell you more things. So if you are currently searching for a developer, let me tell you something. Unless you know what skills and programming languages you really need, it's probably too early to start real development. Instead, you need someone to point out existing ways or solutions to build a prototype, or at least to guide you towards the best technical solution for your product development. So to sum up, if you don't have a technical background, forget about becoming a tech expert. It could take you years, 5 to 10 years. And instead, what I would suggest is just to surround yourself with experts that are not specialized in only one technology and who have nothing more to sell than just objective advices. Now, let's talk about the third role of the CTO, the IT manager role. Like any managers, there is two sides of the work. The human side, the real management side of the role, and the technical side, the expertise of this specific industry. And for us, this is tech. Let me cover quickly both. For the human side, if there is one thing I really want you to remember, is that great manager listens. They not only listens their clients' needs, but also the product owner, the product manager, and the developers' feedbacks as well. And a great example of this is Brendan, the CEO of the startup Easyware. I've worked with Easyware in 2017. I started to work with them in 2017. I helped them to grow their team, reorganizing developments, and in less than 2 years, I also, 2 years later, I did a second audit to help them acquire an AI company and to grow from 30 to almost 50 salaries. All that was possible because Brendan is the type of person willing to listen and analyze situations and opportunities, with as much information as possible. Okay? So, how to become a good IT manager these days is just by listening people, by paying attention to what they want to do and to their futures. You know, even if you find someone who has the right skills, the right technical skills, just asking him or her, what they want to do and where they want to be in 5 years, as example. How working with you today will help them move towards those goals. A good manager is kind of a manager 2.0. It's a career coach from my point of view. That's how I see management nowadays. It allowed me to work with my own project and to work with freelancers and to let them do what they want and what they like. And they still work with me several years after because I let them be who they are. And that's really, really important. And the secret to this is just to make them learn. And in the startup world, there is no room for forcing things. You can just motivate people. Over the years, I've seen two types of managers. The old school manager, people who order things, one directional, and people who inspire them. The first one is always struggling because the communication is just one directional and they don't listen feedbacks. But we work with humans and we all have desires, constraints, and needs. And your duty as a manager is to give your team the work they like doing because they're going to do much better work if they like what they do on a daily basis. So, have you ever considered, by the way, working with great developers at a cheaper price just by providing maybe the freedom to travel the world and work remotely? It might be challenging, but it works. And we are a distributed startup ourselves. And I know several successful startups like Zapier, Basecamp, Buffer, or Envision with hundreds of employees working from all over the world. So that can be part of your mindset, of your culture to do the same. It's up to the manager to define how to get things done and how to attract people who want to work the same way. And there is just a second aspect of the good IT manager role that I really want to cover. It's the capacity to lead a technical team. And in that case, it includes managing and controlling the development, managing the providers, setting deadlines, managing contracts, controlling source code access, and controlling the infrastructure access. Of course, also to make good decisions about the project. That's the IT manager's duties. So now that has been said, I have a good news and a bad news for you. I have dozens of examples of conflict between developers and CEOs. We talked about that before. And most of the time, it happens because of one thing, the source code properties and access. Now, the good news is that you can now avoid those painful situations by just applying the following rules. The source code produced for a company belongs to said company, period. You have to own the source code repository. And that's the source code repository that is the place where developers store their daily work. It's like being the owner of a land before starting to build a house on it. That is very, very important. So be sure to apply that rule from the day one. Seriously, from the day one. So to conclude on a good news, if Brendan from Easy were able to lead successfully a tech startup without technical background, I do believe that you can do the same. You just need to learn to be a good IT manager, and that's a role that you can absolutely learn. You can get to know a bit of tech just on the surface, but enough to understand your team and to be a good leader. So now, but last but not least, the innovator role. Okay, it might sound a bit obvious, but this role is grossly overlooked and underestimated in startups. It's also the role where I provide the most value. And to illustrate that, I'm going to talk about Marseille Innovation, which is the biggest accelerator in southeast of France. There I have mentored dozens, if it's not 100, startups as a product manager, IT expert, and IT manager, helping them to get started and grow their team overall. Overall, I've had the most impact on early stage projects when everything is still possible. having worked with 100 startups, I realized that a good CTO is not only a good product manager, an IT expert, or an IT manager, but I've seen so many business models, technologies, team challenges, organizations. I've seen what works and what doesn't, so that I consider my role as an innovator, a tech innovator. I don't claim to know it all. I keep learning every day, but after working with so many projects at my CTO friend, we developed the ability to really understand projects at a deep level, to understand what their customers want and which technical solutions would fit the best. And that's what I mean by innovator. Being technically creative, like an inventor, having good business skills, and an extensive experience working with startups. That's really what an innovator is from my point of view. And that's also someone able to find shortcuts, building softwares, and who knows how to build prototype faster than you can ever thought possible. I know that's a tall order to fill in, and it takes years to get that skills and to think really that way. But I want to help you today to understand what an innovator is and maybe one day to become an innovator. I want to invite you to learn as much as you can about different technologies. And for that, I suggest reading Product Hunt or TechCrunch News. And more specifically, there are 3 things I want you to look out for and analyze in other startups. Of course, it's not limited to only those 2. You can search on the tech news in general. But there are 3 things that I want you to analyze. First, how other startups implement technologies to provide values, what technology they use, etc. Secondly, what type of business model they build around their value proposition. And last, how they attract customers. What are their growth tactics and techniques? Growth hacking techniques as well. This is how you can learn to become a better innovator yourself after years. So, in order to build your startup in a timely manner, for that and to fill in this innovator role, you have to find a coach, a mentor, an experienced tech startup entrepreneur or serial entrepreneur to challenge you, to challenge your idea and the way you execute. Which is, by the way, one of our main roles at my CTO friend, of course. So, to conclude with this video, here are the 4 main roles of an early stage startup and how you can fill in those roles. If you don't have, of course, the right tech co-founder. And for the next part of this presentation, I want to explain how you can transform the lack of a tech co-founder into a real opportunity. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video. I'm going to see you there.